In the pre-dawn silence, when the dew still lingered on the rice stalks, a woman stood up, carrying a burden heavier than the baskets of mangoes she would later carry to the market. Her name was Diep, a name now engraved in the hearts of many who had followed the tumultuous love story between her and James, the CEO once considered untouchable, now succumbing to fate, betrayal and an invisible enemy lurking in the shadows. But their story did not begin here. It began with a child. In the previous chapter of their lives, a great shock shattered the fragile peace that James and Diep had worked so hard to maintain. Their young son, barely old enough to understand pain, was diagnosed with a rare genetic blood cancer, passed from mother to child without her knowledge. Although early diagnosis and blood transfusions saved the boy's life, the prognosis was dire. The boy would require lifelong treatment. James, instinctively protective, flew overseas with his mother to begin caring for the boy. Diep, racked with guilt, stayed behind, carrying the painful conviction that she was the source of her son's suffering. When James returned, it was not only to continue the fight against John, the calculating enemy who had turned their lives upside down, but also to hug the woman he loved and whisper, "Don't blame yourself anymore." "Our son needs you to be strong. And I will always be here." Peace was fleeting. The moment James and Diep returned home, their world turned red once more. John, ruthless, methodical, struck without warning. The blade flashed, almost piercing James's heart. If Diep hadn't acted on his lightning-fast instincts, James would have died that day. But John didn't stop, and neither did they. While James fought on one front, Diep turned to the land. With her son recovering overseas under the care of his grandmother, Diep returned to her roots, literally. On the family farm, she found both refuge and purpose. She worked with unwavering determination, herding buffalo, tilling rice, preparing meals before sunrise. No cameras, no applause. Just the calloused hands of a woman who knew that love, when demonstrated in action, resonated more than any vow. Her fruits, guava, mango, orange, are not only delicious but also rich in flavor. At the market, buyers return not only for the sweetness, but also for the sincerity behind each sale. Her fruits not only carry the taste of the sun but also the dedication of the people who grow them, said a villager. Every night, exhausted, Diep calls her son. The calls are short, often filled with stories of spoiled cows or lazy worms. She never cries, but the way she smiles through trembling lips tells a deeper story. Miles away, James faced a different kind of battleground, his failing company. A historic flood had wiped out their stockpile. His future father-in-law, Mr. Nong, had supplied the wood through family connections. But James, cautious and strategic, refused to rely on obligation. Driving across the country, James inspected wood from north to south, studying sustainability, ethical harvesting, even the grain patterns of each tree. Finally, in a remote mountain village, he found it, chemical-free, dense, beautiful, but expensive. The numbers weren't in his favor. But his instincts told him this was the way forward, not just for profit, but for salvation. He delayed signing the contract, waiting for a miracle, or a risk worth taking. What James didn't know was that his every move was being watched. Mr. Nong, the smiling, family-connected businessman, was not only Diep's father but also John's silent partner. Together, they planned to destroy James' company and his will. Their trap wasn't a lightning strike, but a slow choke. They tailed him, studied his movements, even knew the make, color, and license plate of his car. Then they struck. Sabotage on the mountain road. On a quiet inspection trip through the woods, James' car was targeted. His brakes, still intact, were subtly disabled by a thin, almost undetectable wire. As James descended the mountain road, he hit the brakes and felt nothing. The wind whistled through the windows. Speed increased, but James, well-trained and alert, made his only choice. He aimed for a large tree and crashed into it, on purpose. The airbag saved his life. The villagers found James unconscious, blood streaming down his forehead. A stranger called Diep on the phone. She rushed to the scene, gasping for breath, her hands shaking. At the rural clinic, she found him, bruised, battered, but alive. She held his hand, spoon-feeding him porridge, whispering to him to eat slowly, like a mother caring for a child. "You're just like my mother," he said weakly, but behind the gentleness was a growing determination. When the police confirmed sabotage, James did not waver. He had known, it was John. It had always been John. In a distant room shrouded in darkness, John sipped his wine with a crooked smile. "James, this time, you're definitely going to die." But James was no longer the one reacting. He was becoming the one who would finish what they had started. The war was not over. The next move is his.